MSNBC's Morning Line.
Don't you? The new gathering power of over 200 local stations across the nation. And only one puts you in touch with a global internet 24 hours a day. MSNBC, where you really want to know.
News and information. Brought to you by Fields of Pikesville.
Welcome back to MSNBC. Just want to bring you up to speed on the latest developments in the Kathleen Willey story. The president has made some comments this morning. He was speaking at a high school, Springbrook High School in Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., and he had this to say this morning. I can just tell you I've done everything I could do to clarify the situation. I have a very clear memory, he said, of the meeting, and I told the truth. I certainly stand by the deposition. And we're waiting to hear if the president will have any further comments. He's expected to host a Q&A session with some students a little bit afternoon. Of course, we'll keep you posted here at MSNBC. Well, meantime, the critics say it is not just a trove of personal effects going on the block in New York this week. They argue that some of the items once owned by John F. Kennedy belong to the nation. The disputed items include notes JFK made during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Many of the items to be auctioned off once belonged to JFK's personal secretary and friend, Evelyn Lincoln. MSNBC's Lori Stokes has more.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Evelyn Lincoln was the most devoted admirer, supporter, assistant to, servant of the late president.
In Lincoln's 12 years as John F. Kennedy's secretary, she saved virtually everything from his doodles to notes. Arlen Ettinger is president of Guernsey's auction house, where many of the items will go on sale this week.
Evelyn Lincoln felt that it would be important to preserve history by saving things. And she would kid the president at times by saying, Mr. President, don't throw that object out. And he'd say, well, that's silly, Evelyn. Who would want that? But she'd say, it should be saved. And she would be given the object. It was well known that she had this material.
Hundreds of Kennedy-related documents and artifacts are going on the auction block, from John F. Kennedy's Cartier watch given to him by his wife, Jacqueline, to notes written by his wife to Lincoln.
When you see a note from Jacqueline Kennedy to Evelyn Lincoln saying, Dear Ev, the next time you put a large stack of papers on the president's desk for him to sign, would you shove in these little bills? He always gets so mad at me when I spend too much that maybe you can slip these by him, and I promise I'm going to curtail my spending ways. Now, who amongst us can identify with that? It certainly goes to show that they were human beings and had the concerns and feelings that we all have.
But what started out as a celebration of John and Jacqueline has turned into a dispute over ownership. Kennedy loyalists have questioned whether Lincoln legally owned some of the items that now belong to collector Robert White. He inherited some of Lincoln's Kennedy treasures when she passed away.
To have the support of the Kennedy family, certain members of the Kennedy family are consigning to it, but it would be not a fair statement to say every member of the Kennedy family is cheering about it.
In fact, reports say John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Kennedy Schlossberg are trying to get some of the items back from Mr. White. He has already given them back a love letter their mother wrote before their father's 1963 assassination. And then, in conjunction with the Kennedy Library, the National Archives and Records Administration sent a fax to Mr. Ettinger that says, we have reason to believe that many of these documents, artifacts, and audiovisual materials belong to the United States. They also claim some items listed in the auction contain information about national security. On Thursday, Mr. Ettinger responded.
Although I personally found that hard to imagine, considering many of these items are simply charming, innocuous little notes. Nevertheless, we've given them full entree and full cooperation. It doesn't in any way jeopardize the auction.
Then on Friday, Robert White agreed to remove the items relating to national security. However, federal officials are still looking into whether some items belong to the federal government and therefore belong in the John F. Kennedy Library in Boston. The dispute may ultimately wind up in court. Mr. White's lawyer, Robert Adler, promises that White would contest any effort to shut down the sale. For MSNBC, I'm Lori Stokes.
And again, the auction set for sometime this week in New York City.
We're going to talk about that in a moment, but first, the president is in Silver Spring, Maryland, asked about the Kathleen Willey case. This is what he said.
Made unwanted sexual